Hey everyone, it's Chris Prue in the White Mountains TV North Conway studio, and we are really excited about this next interview. On March 4th through 7th, the Denmark Arts Center and the Standard Gastropub present the Ski-Stump Film Fest, featuring the films The Blizzard of Aaahs, License to Thrill, Groove Requiem, P-Tex Lies, and Duct Tape, and Maltese Flamingo. And we have now an interview with the director of these films himself, the legendary Greg Stump, who joins us remotely from Oregon. Greg, thanks for joining us today.
I'm good, Chris. How are things in North Conway?
North Conway, we are in full swing winter. We're looking forward to March and the spring skiing season. We've had a good snowy February, and right now we have a little bit of spring weather, and that makes us kind of think of some of your ski films from the past. For those who aren't familiar with Greg Stump, you are one of the pioneers of ski filmmaking. Probably one of your most famous films was The Blizzard of Aaahs, produced back in 1988, I believe. And in many ways, that film led to the creation of where I'm working today. Tell us a little bit about your history as a ski filmmaker.
My history is a stick? Is that what you said? No.
As a ski filmmaker.
First of all, just a little correction. I wouldn't say that I'm a pioneer in ski films, because there's a lot of ski filmmaking way before me. I'm a chapter in a very big book. If I pioneered anything, it would be on the musical front, because I brought in a whole different vibe. Because when I started making ski films, I was also working for Swatch down in New York City and doing a lot of stuff for MTV. So, I was determined to make music. So in that way, I would say I was a pioneer musically. But, the extreme thing, that was already happening. I mean, I stole it from the French. When we were filming Maltese Flamingo 3 years before Blizzard of Aaahs, we saw extreme skiing, or as the French called it, skiers of the extreme, skiers of the extreme. They weren't even called extreme skiers. But it was like people like Patrick Valençant and like Bruno Grouvet, and we weren't. That's extreme skiing, and so I just kind of latched onto it as a marketing thing. But that exploded in the States too, because nobody in the States had heard the word. I mean, you heard extreme, but it wasn't. After Blizzard of Aaahs came out, I mean, there were extreme combos at Taco Bell. The word transcendent, is the most overused word in marketing.
You are a Mainer. Well,
I'm from away, Chris.
Okay.
To be freaking realistic about it, I'm from away. Don't be getting me going, Mr. Man. I'm from away. I know it. Don't freaking push me. Because I wasn't born in Maine. I was born in San Diego, so I'm really from away, California. But my family moved to Gorham, Maine, because my dad had a job at the university there in 1968. So I was 7 years old, and that's where we learned to ski. But I can never claim to be a Mainer. Mainers claim me. That's their prerogative. But I'm technically from away. But yes, growing up in Maine, it was great fun, and we were all involved in the freestyle program. Then it was called Pleasant Mountain, Shawnee Peak now. But it was a scene. We had 6 national champions from Maine. 5 of them were out of Pleasant Mountain in 1 year. The 1978 Nationals at Copper Mountain. I mean, those kids out west, the ones I'm still friends with, they're like, oh my God, it was horrifying. You guys from Maine would come out and be like, what was that? And because that's all we didn't have powder skiing or like those guys out west. And I wouldn't have learned ballet either if I lived in, Sun Valley or something.
Yep.
But we did, because it was jumps, and we had less than wonderful conditions. New England skiing, which it is what it is, but that's why we were so good.
We were talking with ski filmmaker Greg Stump, the legend himself, and we're going to talk a little bit about the Ski-Stump Film Fest coming up to benefit the Denmark Arts Center in Denmark, Maine. But first, I want to talk about your connection to Glen Plake, the famous Mohawk extreme skier who was not as well known until he made his appearance in The Blizzard of Aaahs. What was it like? What was your connection with him? How did you get him involved in the film? And what was he like to work with? Because those who have been watching this station for a long time, from back in its RSN days, are very familiar with him.
Yeah, well, he did Real Thrills for you guys for years.
Yeah, he was a host
That's
of
a
one of
great
our
show.
Real Thrills.
Yeah, that was a great show. They shouldn't have canceled that.
They shouldn't have.
No, they shouldn't have actually.
We're still waiting to bring it back.
You know what? Glenn was great. I mean, he ended up doing a show on the History Channel a couple of seasons ago, like Truck Night in America or something.
Yeah,
Because he's so funny, he's so good.
Yep.
But I met Glenn through Mike Hatcher, my brother Jeff. They were competing bumps, and they knew him from the Pacific Northwest division of USSA for bump skiing. And they said, you gotta see this guy. You know, freaking mohawk. We gotta film him. And I did meet him in '86 when we were doing Maltese Flamingo, and he came. And he kept following us. He kept showing up to get snowbird, and he'd show up with all the right gear. Like he had K2, Solomon, SOS, he had everything that we had our sponsors. So he'd show up, and everybody, I'd have him like, how is he figuring out where we are? Because it wasn't just one place. It was like, by about the third time, I'm like, I questioned people on my crew. I go, who's telling Glenn? Because I didn't want him around. No, because I'm at that time I looked like Michael J. Fox, and we're staying in these nice places, these nice ski areas, and we're supposed to be nice. We're not supposed to cause freaking havoc and be smoking weed in the Cliff Lodge at Snowbird. But that was Glenn, and and he skied great, but he was so, at that point, this was when he was still drinking, still doing drugs. He was just out of control. And I didn't want him on my watch at these places, but it was Karl Abby that kept telling him where we were, because Karl knew the star power of Glenn, and he's just like, and everybody else did, everybody but me, because I was the guy that had to deal with it, as far as, I'm not just filming a movie, I'm, booking the hotels, driving, just dealing with this circus. I'm the manager on the road as well. So Glenn was, it just was so crazy. But then when Lynn Weiland got hurt during Blizzard of Aaahs, because she was in Chamonix before Glenn. The only reason Glenn's in Blizzard of Aaahs is because Lynn Weiland broke her back.
Wow. And
then, which was traumatic enough. And then we're like, fuck, we only have two skiers. We have Mike and Scott. And everybody's, you got to get Glenn over here. And I didn't want to. And then I went, okay, let's do it. And oh my God, picking him up at the airport, he cleared out an entire row on a 747 because he had a boombox. And I'd never heard of Guns N' Roses at the time, but he was playing Guns N' Roses on a boombox on the plane. And people moved away from him. They cleared out, so we had a whole row to sleep on the European flight. And we pick him up in Geneva, and he already f***ed up it. Pardon my language, you bleep that, right?
We'll bleep that.
Yeah, he was already inebriated and whatever else he had. Oh yeah, and of course, he's the kind of guy that has to smuggle pot to Europe in his ski poles. And I'm just like, oh, good. No. Anyway. But that's how I met him. And then, of course, the stuff he did in Blizzard was unreal. And it made the movie, and his interview makes the movie. He gives, he solidifies the rebel spirit of the movie. And he's great. And he's grown on to be a full-on media star, but that's how I met him.
What a great story. And I love Karl Abby's involvement. For those who don't know, Karl Abby is one of the founding partners and still works for us. He was one of the founding partners of Resort Sports Network, RSN, that later evolved into Outside TV. So in many ways, we owe you and the films that you produced for creating this company. These films were kind of the inspiration for the founding partners that said, hey, let's we see what's happening in the ski film industry. What would happen if we created a network of TV stations that showed this kind of content that was so in demand at the time, and really celebrated this emerging outdoor lifestyle. So
yeah, and I think what Rory Strunk. I mean, like we were saying before the interview, like he started WSKI. I don't know if that's still an affiliate.
Yep.
At Sugarloaf. I mean, Rory started that, and he's also the very first person I ever heard utter the word .com.
Mm-hmm.
No, this guy, he was just forward thinking, and Karl was too. So it's no surprise that the two of them teamed up, created such a cool thing, because it's you guys' network. That's one of those things. It would have happened anyway. That kind of thing was going to happen. You had MTV Sports. You started having local cable everywhere. I mean, it was inevitable. But they sure were ahead of their time. They did it right. And look, you got a whole network now.
Let's talk a little bit about, the Denmark Arts Center is putting on the Ski-Stump Film Fest, and it is presented by the Denmark Arts Center and the Standard Gastropub. It's going to be featuring The Blizzard of Aaahs, License to Thrill, Groove Requiem, P-Tex Lies and Duct Tape, and Maltese Flamingo, March 4th through the 7th. And again, that's Denmark Arts Center. DenmarkArtsCenter.org is the place to go for more information. And I
think it's all virtual. So it's a virtual film fest fundraiser. So I think, I'm not positive. It's my understanding that when you make a donation, presumably, and hopefully you can, because they're a good 501c3, and but I'm not. I mean, I haven't done it yet, but I believe it's you can log into any of these movies.
Which is part of how most things are being done these days. And the place to go to get information on that is DenmarkArtsCenter.org. You can relive a little bit of kind of, you refuse to acknowledge yourself as a pioneer, but I'm going to say it, some of these pioneering ski films. And it's just what a great connection that these films have to Maine, thanks to the director, Greg Stump. Greg, I think we've gone well over our allotted time, but I want to thank you for joining us today. Anything else you want to say before we say goodbye?
Go to blizzardsnowstore.com and spend a bunch of money. Well, no, you can get all my movies digitally downloaded, or if you like autographed DVDs or posters, we have all posters for all the films. So that's blizzardsnowstore.com.
We might have to get some of those posters for our set. That would be
hell yeah. Order up, get that Visa card out.
All right. Greg Stump, thank you so much for joining us, and I hope to talk to you again sometime.
Call me anytime.
All right, we'll talk to you soon. You're watching White Mountains TV.